All right, let's dive into Approved Document C for England. If you're involved in any kind of construction, this is your guide to getting the groundwork right, literally, and making sure your build is safe from nasty contaminants and moisture.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll get a solid handle on what Approved Document C is all about. Then, we're going to break down its two main requirements, C1 and C2. And to wrap it all up, we'll talk about how you actually go about achieving compliance on your project.
So, first things first, what in the world is Approved Document C, and why should you care about it?
Okay, this is a really crucial distinction to make right at the start. These approved documents, they aren't the law themselves. Think of them as the official instruction manual. They're packed with practical guidance and real-world solutions that show you how to meet the legal standards in most common situations.
Approved Document C specifically is all about how you prepare a building site. It gives you the official guidance on everything from what's in the ground beneath your feet to how the building is going to hold up against the weather. It's all about ensuring a safe, sound, and durable structure from day one.
When you boil it all down, Part C is about protecting people. Simple as that. It's about managing those hidden hazards from the ground itself, things like contaminants or even radon gas getting inside. And of course, making sure the building is tough enough to keep moisture out.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty, starting with the first big requirement, C1. This is all about preparing the actual ground the building's going to stand on.
You can think of requirement C1 as the first line of defense for the building's long-term health and, more importantly, for the safety of the people inside. It's all about making sure you're starting on solid, safe ground without any hidden problems that could pop up years down the line.
I really like how this breaks down what can feel like a huge task into a really clear process. It's basically a three-step mission. First, clear out anything unstable, old roots, topsoil, bits of old foundations. Second, check for any contaminants and figure out how to deal with them. And third, you have to actively manage those specific underground risks like radon and drainage issues.
And you've got to remember, this guidance doesn't just sit on a shelf gathering dust. It evolves. For instance, a big change is that the radon protection rules now apply to more than just homes. They cover commercial buildings too, which is a huge deal for worker safety. There's also a new focus on subsoil drainage and waterborne contaminants, which just shows how seriously they're taking the issue of managing water before it becomes a major headache.
Okay, on to the second major pillar, requirement C2. This shifts our focus from what's happening under the building to what's trying to get into it from the outside, and that means moisture. Keeping a building dry isn't just a nice-to-have, it's absolutely critical for its structure and for the health of everyone inside.
Now, one of the most significant updates in the recent guidance is a much stronger focus on the risks that come with condensation. It makes sense, right? As we make our buildings more and more airtight to save energy, managing the moisture we create inside has become more important than ever.
And they're not messing around with this new guidance. It is super thorough. We're talking about condensation risks everywhere, floors, walls, the whole roof structure. What's really smart is they've moved all the moisture-related guidance that used to be in the old requirement F2 and put it all here in one logical place. It even gets down to really practical stuff, like advising on specific materials, like moisture-resistant flooring boards.
Okay, so we've got the what and the why down pat. But what about the how? How do you actually prove that your project is up to code and meets these requirements? Let's walk through the rules of the road for compliance.
And this is where things get really interesting, because it highlights a core principle of the building regulations. You are not locked into doing things just one way. You can follow the approved path, the tried and tested solutions laid out in the document, or you can take the alternative path. You can innovate and propose a different solution, as long as you can prove it meets the exact same legal standard for safety and performance.
Now, listen up, because this is probably one of the most important takeaways from this whole thing. The approved document is fantastic guidance, but it's not a get-out-of-jail-free card. At the end of the day, the ultimate legal responsibility is on you, the person doing the work to make sure that for your specific project, every single requirement has been met.
And finally, there's one more crucial rule that sort of hangs over everything we've talked about. It's called Regulation 7, and it's this overarching principle that applies to all building work, period.
So what does that mean? Well, simply put, Regulation 7 demands quality. It means you have to use materials that are actually fit for the job you're doing, and that the work itself has to be carried out to a professional standard. It's the rule that makes sure not just the design is sound, but the actual construction is too.
For more videos like this guide to Approved Document C, please
please visit the Building Regulations Copilot YouTube channel. For all your building regulations-related queries, visit buildingregulationscopilot.com.